Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. RIbhu Gita, Chapter 8ll. Jivanmukta Prakaranam, topic of the liberated while alive. Ribhu, I shall now explain the knowledge of Brahman and the characteristics of a Jivanmukta. One who abides solely in the self is called a Jivanmukta. In other words, the one who is established in the self, firmly established in the self after self-realization, self-knowledge, knows after knowing the supreme reality, the one who is abiding in the self, unbroken abidance in the self is called the state of a Jivanmukta, or the state of steadiness, sthiti pragyata, as explained in Bhagavad Gita. That is the supreme state, the supreme attainment, the highest goal. That is the liberated one, while alive, while still in the body, but that great person is liberated, free from all sense of bondage and sorrows and sufferings and dualities. That is the supreme goal. So in this 8th chapter of RIbhu Gita, the same is explained as to what are the characteristics of a Jivanmukta. Who is a Jivanmukta? How does he behave? How does he act? How does he live? That's one of the most profound topics of the Advaita Vedanta. Listen carefully. One who abides solely in the self is called a Jivanmukta. I am the same as Brahman. I am the self. There is no doubt of this. One who is firm in the conviction that I am Chaitanya Atma, the conscious self, is called a Jivanmukta. I am the self, which is consciousness. I am Paramatman, the Supreme Self. I am attributeless. I am higher than the highest. One who has this certitude is called a Jivanmukta. I am beyond the triad of bodies. I am Brahman consciousness. One whose final conclusion is that I am Brahman is called a Jivanmukta. The one who has realized and convinced deeply and firm within that Aham Brahmasmi, Sohamasmi, that I am Brahman. The one who is firmly established in this conviction is called a Jivanmukta, the enlightened one, the liberated one, the self-realized one, while still alive and living in the body, but that great soul is called Jivanmukta. He is free now. I am of the nature of a mass of bliss. I am higher than the highest bliss. One whose mind is thus all bliss is called a Jivanmukta. He who has no body or such, who is certain that he is Brahman and who is filled with the highest bliss is called a Jivanmukta. He who has no body means he has no sense of the body, though he is still living in the body, he is alive, and yet he has transcended the body consciousness and he is always conscious of consciousness alone. That is called the state of Sahaj Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Jnana Samadhi, and the one who is established there is called a Jivanmukta. He who has no trace of ego, he who abides only in consciousness, who has the highest bliss, and who revels in bliss is called a Jivanmukta. He who is definite of being only consciousness, who is of the nature of consciousness alone, and who does not remember anything else is called a Jivanmukta. He who is ever satisfied everywhere, who abides in the self, comprehending the self everywhere, and who is ever complete in the self everywhere is called a Jivanmukta. One who ever absorbed in the Supreme Self, certain of being the Supreme Self, of the nature of bliss and unmanifest is called a Jivanmukta. One living in this pure beatitude alone, bereft of all attachments, as the Self ever present in bliss is called a Jivanmukta. Of just one nature, the self in peace, devoid of thoughts of anything being separate, such a one who does not in the least have anything is called a Jivanmukta. I have no mind, I have no intelligence, I have no ego, nor do I have senses. One who is Brahman alone is called a Jivanmukta. I have no defects, I have no body, I have no prana, I have nothing ever. Whoever firmly abides in this attitude within is called a Jivanmukta. I have no delusion, I have no desire either. I have no anger, I am beyond all these. There is nothing here of mine, such a one is called a Jivanmukta. Faults have I none, characteristics have I none, attachments have I none. There is no world for me, such a one who has realized this and who eternally dwells in permanent bliss is called a Jivanmukta. Ears I don't have, nose I don't have, eyes I don't have, tongue I don't have, a mind I don't have. He who is definite in this is called a Jivanmukta. What does it mean? It means that self-realized master is absolutely absorbed in pure consciousness, the formless, non-dual, nameless, formless, attributeless self of the nature of the light of consciousness. He is completely absorbed in that state, and therefore, even while he is alive, he is not conscious of any motor organs or sense organs or body or mind or intellect. He is completely absorbed in the self, in the Atman. He is reveling in the Atman. He is enjoying the bliss of the Atman ever. That is the supreme bliss. That is the state of Atmananda, Brahmananda, the highest unconditioned absolute beatitude and bliss he is enjoying. I have no body, I have no distinguishing marks, I have no cause, I have no fourth estate. He who is established in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. All this is none of mine, all that is none of mine. One who is established thus in Brahman alone is called a Jivanmukta. Brahmanishtha, firmly established in the Brahman, that soul is called Jivanmukta. Ever abiding in the self, ever abiding in the Brahman. The Brahman, the Atman, the Self, the Supreme Self are one synonymous words in Advaita Vedanta for the Supreme Reality. All this is none of mine, all that is none of mine. One who is established thus in Brahman alone is called a Jivanmukta. There is not even a little of mine, there is nothing of mine, there is no world for me, not a bit of it ever. I am myself. One who is thus established is called a Jivanmukta. I have no time, I have no space, I have no objects, I have no being. There is no ablution or renunciation for me. Such a one is called a Jivanmukta. What does it mean when he says, I have no time nor space? The time and space are always in the realm of mind. The moment you transcend the realm of mind, you are timeless, you are spaceless. Space is an outproduct of the body space or the body consciousness, and the sense of time is an outproduct, essentially an illusion caused by mental modifications, the thoughts. Therefore, once you transcend your body consciousness and mind consciousness, you are beyond time and space. That is what Ribhu is trying here to suggest, that the one who is firmly established in the Atman, in the Brahman, in the Self, he is firmly convinced that I am not the time, I am not the space, I am beyond all that. I am eternity and infinity absolute. That is the characteristic of the Jivanmukta. For me, there is no holy river, no God, no service to a God, and no shrine. I am without the least difference. He who is so is called a Jivanmukta. I have no attachment, I have no birth, I have no knowledge, I have no position, I have no speech. He who abides in himself is called a Jivanmukta. Abidance in himself here means the eternal I, capital I, the I consciousness, the light of pure consciousness, the non-dual, indivisible, eternal knower and seer of all. That is Brahman, that is Atman, that is Paramatman. One who is abiding firmly ever in that reality is called a Jivanmukta. Abiding in the self means abiding in the Brahman. You are Brahman. The Brahman is not an external reality. One who abides in the self, he abides in the Brahman. The one who knows the self within, he knows the Brahman. The one who abides in the self, he becomes liberated because the self is eternal, unborn, immortal, infinite reality. I have no punya merit, I have no papa sin, I have no body, I have nothing auspicious, I have nothing to see. Such a seer is called a Jivanmukta. I have no sound, I have no touch, I have no sight, I have no taste, I have no life. One who realizes thus is called a Jivanmukta. Last month I was giving a series of discourses on Vedanta Chandavali, and in that there were a couple of discourses I give on who is an Avadhuta. And the answer given by Bhole Baba in Vedanta Chandavali is exactly the same in essence that is given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in answer to the question when Arjuna asks, who is a sthiti prajna, the one who is of steady wisdom. The characteristics of an avadhuta, the characteristics of a sthiti prajna are same as the characteristics of a jivan mukta. These are different words, but that either avadhuta or sthiti pragyata or jivan mukta or jivan mukti. The state of jivan mukti is a state of self-realization, enlightenment, moksha, liberation, while still alive, while still living in the body. Even listening to these characteristics carefully, reflecting upon them and meditating upon them enhances your journey towards the self-realization very fast. I have no sound, I have no touch, I have no sight, I have no taste, I have no life. One who realizes thus is called a Jivan Mukta. I have none of it all, I have not the least of it, I have no life, I have no place anywhere, I have no attitudes, I have no possessions. One who has realized thus is a Jivan Mukta. There is nothing in liberation for me, there is no duality for me, no Vedas for me, no scriptural injunctions for me, and no distance for me. One who thus abides in himself is a Jivan Mukta. There is no guru for me, no disciple for me either, no teaching for me, nothing higher for me, and no object is exalted for me. Such a one is called a Jivan Mukta. For me, there is no Brahman, For me, there is no Brahma, no Vishnu, no Rudra, no Ravi, sun. There are no actions for me. There is nothing for me. One who has realized thus is called a Jivan Mukta. For me, there is no earth, no water, no light, and no space. There is no action for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There are no words for me, no sentences for me, no lineage for me, no race for me, and no knowledge for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no audible sound for me. There is no inaudible sound for me either. No ideal for me, no future or worldly life for me, and no contemplation either. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no cold for me, no heat for me, no delusion for me, no recitation of mantras for me, and no dawn or dusk for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no muttering of mantras for me, no mantras at all for me, no homas for me, no night for me, none of all this for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no fear for me, also no food for me, no thirst for me, and no hunger for me. There is no self for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no front for me, no rear for me, and there is nothing above me. There are no directions for me, there is no mind of mine. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is nothing in the list that I have to say. There is not a whisper that I have to hear. There is nothing ever so little to be thought of by me. One who thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is nothing in the list to be experienced by me. There is not even an atom to be contemplated upon by me. Nor is there anything to be remembered by me. One who thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no enjoyment for me, there is no sickness for me, there is no yoga for me, there is no dissolution for me, there are none at all for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no existence for me, there is no birth for me, there is no aging for me, there is no decay for me, there is no superimposition for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta, the one who is liberated while still living in the body. Superimposing is not at all for me. Refutation is not at all for me. There is nothing at all of I for me. One who thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no purity for me. There is no shining for me. Nor is there one or many for me. There is no past for me, nor any actions. One who thus is called a Jivanmukta. Who am I? Koham is not for me. This is not for me. Not another is not for me. Oneself is not for me. There is nothing at all for me, none at all. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. What says Ribhu is here trying to suggest that anything of this phenomenal world and universe that can be indicated of and expressed through words belongs to the realm of illusion, delusion, perishable worlds that is born out of ignorance. Therefore, the one who is self-realized is negating all neti, 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 neti. Anything and everything which comes in the realm of name, form, attributes, cause and effects. The self-realized master is always beyond all that that could have a name, that could have a form, that could be explained by words. That's why the highest state, when the self-realized master, the Jivanmukta, when he is abiding in the nameless, formless, attributeless, causeless, the Brahman, the absolute reality, the self-abiding, liberated soul is ever free from consciousness of anything in this world that could be explained in words. That is the substance of what Maharishi Ribhu is trying to indicate the highest, the peaks of Advaita Vedantas. An ordinary intellect would find it very difficult to understand it because it appears contradictory. There appears to be conflict in the statements that he would be giving. But if you understand the fundamentals and basic tenets of Advaita Vedanta, you will jump in joy, you will abide in the bliss, you will drink the nectarine bliss of these words. You will understand that there is no contradiction. There is the supreme truth being revealed by Ribhu to Nidagha. Neither flesh, nor blood, nor marrow, nor excrement, nor bone exists for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is nothing of all for me. There is neither white nor blue, nor is there anything separate for me. One who abides in himself, by himself, thus is called a Jivanmukta. That is the state of abidance in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Jnana Samadhi, Sahaj Samadhi, by himself, in himself. What does it mean? That, put it simply, when consciousness is conscious of consciousness alone, that is the supreme state. That is the state of abidance in truth, abidance in self, abidance in Brahman, Brahmanist, Atmanist, Satyanist. That is the state of a Jivanmukta. That is what Maharishi Ribhu is trying to explain, that supreme glory. It's very simple. If you are eager, you are a true seeker, you will enjoy the nectarine bliss of these words. Every single word and sentence in RIbhu Gita is a sentence for deep reflection, profound Vedantic meditation. Any one of the sentences or paragraphs or lines can take you to the supreme height and ultimate glory of self-realization. You may be taken there, the supreme and ultimate abode of yours. The Brahman is not an external reality. The Brahman, the Atman, the Paramatman which this Jivanmukta has realized and is abiding and enjoying the unbroken bliss of Brahman is the innermost reality of yours and mine. Realize this, that is the supreme glory. Once you realize your true nature, only then there is cessation of all sorrows and sufferings, and then only there is bursting forth of the unbroken, unconditioned, infinite ocean of love, bliss, and beauty. You are embodiment of infinite bliss. You are embodiment of unconditioned love. You are embodiment of everlasting beauty yourself. That is the self within, the consciousness within, the Atman within. Once you realize that embodiment of bliss, beauty and love, the Anandamurti, Chinamurti, Premamurti, Saundaryamurti, where else would you go? Let me tell you a very simple example to understand for the ordinary people. Suppose you are in love with a girl or a lady for quite long period of time. You have very intense yearning for her. You have very keen desire to be in love with or to marry her. And once it becomes possible to formalize that meeting and mating with your supreme lover or the supreme beloved, as Brihadaranyaka Upanishad calls the Param Premaspad. But in this world, this Param Premaspad is in the physical sense, let's say, your lover or beloved, which you have been mad to meet. And when you meet her or him, what do? What are you going to do? What in ordinary parlance people call honeymoon, what that has been referred in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in a very appropriate and profound way to make you understand very simply. Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta and self-realization are not abstract and abstruse philosophy. You can understand this through empirical personal experiences of this body and life that you are going every day. So when you meet your lover or beloved to spend time or to be with her or him, you forget everything else. You don't want to do anything else. You want to enjoy yourself being in the company of that lover or beloved, being in intimate relationship with this lover and beloved, being in the bosom of this lover or beloved. You are not aware. Nobody goes there to teach you and preach you the Vedas, or the Guru is not going to teach you that, no, you must have very close attention to your lover or beloved. No, nobody says that, and yet you are every moment enjoying the pleasure, whether the sensual pleasure, mental pleasure is another, but you love it. You don't go out anywhere. You don't want to separate from him or her, the lover or beloved. Similarly, and that is what in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 2, when Yajnavalkya is instructing Maitreyi, he says, "O Maitreyi," he is explaining the characteristics exactly as what Ribhu is explaining the Jivanmukta's characteristics. He is saying, the one who is a self-realized, this is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the one who is self-realized, the one who is a knower of the Brahman, who is abiding in the Brahman, the state of that person is exactly like that of a husband and wife, or a lover and beloved when they are in love. When they are in the company of and in the embrace of each other, or in the state of love making, they are neither aware of anything outside the body, nor anything outside the body other than the joy and pleasure of the company of the lover or beloved or the husband and wife. In the same way, a Brahmagyani, an Atmagyani, a Tattvagyani, an Atmanist, a Brahmanist, a Jivanmukta, when he realizes the true nature of the self, when he realizes that Brahman ever present in himself or herself, then he finds the supreme lover and ultimate beloved he was ever hankering after in the external world in the form of sensual pleasures, material gratifications, which were fractions of the bliss that he was enjoying in the external phenomenal sensual pleasures. Even this point has been referred in such a brilliant way in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad that is called, and in Panchadasi also, that all the human beings or all the living beings on this planet live, survive, sustain themselves on a fraction, on a particle, listen carefully, on a particle of the bliss of the Brahmananda. No, this is the highest truth. Once you realize, you will become free immediately from all the attachments of sensual pleasures. Because in Panchadasi, in depth, it has been detailed. The bliss, the Brahmananda, Vishayananda, Brahmananda, Atmananda. So, even in the material world, in which every moment you are working, you are running from pillar to post to enhance your sensual pleasure, material gratification, enjoyment of sensual pleasure, all the pleasures available to even the mightiest person on the planet, the richest person on the planet, the most wise and learned person on the planet, who could enjoy the entire pleasure available to him or her on this planet, is a fraction of the bliss or happiness or the joy derived from the Brahmananda, the Atmananda, the one who knows that Brahman within and the one who is self-realized. That is a great topic of explanation in Taittiriya Upanishad. The calculus of bliss is given in great detail. What I am trying to suggest and what says Ribhu is instructing in this RIbhu Gita is this, that the love, joy, pleasure, even sensual pleasure we are seeking in the external world is essentially an atom, a particle, a reflection of the Brahmananda, not vice versa. Therefore, you don't get attached, you don't run after a drop of an ocean, a drop of a bucket when the entire ocean or entire river body is available to you. That is what even Lord Krishna, listen carefully, this one theme, if you could understand, it can just revolutionize your plane of consciousness. Doesn't matter whether you are a sannyasi or a garhastha, you should understand this deeply. In 46th verse of the second chapter, Lord Krishna says, Yavanartha uddapane sarvatah samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. O Arjuna, the knower of the Brahman, the knower of the truth, the self-realized one, for the self-realized one, the Vedas are of only of that much of significance or use as in the case of a person, the small well is useful when he is surrounded by an infinite ocean or a flood. Listen carefully again. A person who is surrounded all around by flood of water, does he have any need or desire for a small well? None. In the same way, the Vedas, when Lord Krishna is referring here Veda, he is referring in this verse the Karma Kanda portion of the Veda, which are the rituals and rites for attainment of heavenly pleasures, heavenly abode, or the worldly glories. So he says that one who has known and realized and who is enjoying the bliss of Brahman, the Brahmananda, he would never ever desire for that petty sensual pleasure, in the same way as one who is surrounded by all around by flood or the infinite ocean will never ever have any desire or need for the water of a bucket, the water of a well, the water of a small reservoir. He won't have. In the same way, due to ignorance of ourself, the infinity and vastness and the glory of the bliss of our supreme lover within, our supreme beloved within, we are seeking external lovers, we are seeking love in the external beloveds. We are begging for millions of lives and eons of time, and yet we are hungry, yet we are always thirsty, ever thirsty. The more we enjoy the sensual pleasure, the more we beg in the external world for love, the more loveless we find. We say that love is an illusion. We say that this affection, love or bliss or pleasure, oh, these are temporary, so ephemeral, nobody loves me. The truth is that you are the only source, substance and substratum of all the love, all the beauty, all the bliss is your own property. Once you realize the self within, that is Brahman within, that Shiva you are, that supreme reality you are, only then you will enjoy the authentic, real, eternal love. In the rest, the illusion of love you will see. Only then you would enjoy the real bliss, real joy and real beauty. The rest, only when you realize the self within, then and then alone you will realize the grandeur of the infinite absolute beauty of your supreme beloved within. The rest of the beauty in the external world that you have been seeking in your lover or beloved, your wife or husband, it was all illusory. It is all illusory, ephemeral. For a moment you fall in that trap of infatuation, and in a few days it all begins to dissipate. The law of diminishing return, that is a fundamental tenet of economics, begins to appear and in action and get operationalized in your own personal life. In the Brahmananda, in the realm of Atman, the Brahman, which the Jivanmukta is abiding, there is no law of diminishing return. Listen carefully. This economic term I have quite long been trying to use in Vedanta, and that is much more powerful even than the economics, that the law of diminishing return you find in the sensual pleasures, in the worldly pleasures. When you go to the self and the pleasure of the self or a joy of the self or the bliss of the Brahman, there the law of ever increasing return. Mind you, in this world and worldly pleasures, the law of diminishing return. In the realm of spirituality, in the realm of self, the Atman, the law of ever increasing return. The more self-abidance you experience, that is what in Samadhi you read that this sage, this seer, this master, for hundreds of years he was in Samadhi, for thousands. What they are trying to suggest is that is the ultimate love, bliss and beauty, the self within, the Brahman within. Once you are in that, where to go? Because you are all in all, you are all of all, you are unconditioned reality. The Jivanmukta, the state of Jivanmukta, RIbhu Gita is here trying to explain is exactly the same. I thought it proper. They are not in RIbhu Gita, but RIbhu Gita is at such a great height. I need to explain it so that it doesn't slip over from your head. It must become a part of you. It's a rational philosophy. Vedanta is a rational philosophy, intuitive, direct, immediate experience can be had. Only then. I don't believe in renouncing anything, but renouncing ignorance. Ignorance of the illusory love, bliss and beauty in the external world. Once I know for sure that the external love, beauty and pleasure is illusory, like dream world, there is no attachment for me. Howsoever big a guru is, how many times scriptures I read and the guru tells me that renounce sensual pleasures, they are poison, I won't be able to. I will become a hypocrite. That again in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, you will become and end up as a hypocrite unless and until you find the infinite reservoir of love, bliss and beauty that is present only in the self, in the Brahman. And then nobody can take you to that unreal. When the real food is before you and you are hungry, would you like to see the pictures of food? Tell me. If the real water is before you, potable, very sweet water before you and you are thirsty, and then there is a picture somewhere on the wall of a glass of water, would you bother to enjoy the photo or the painting of the water? Or you would get satisfied, you will quench your thirst only by drinking the real water, only by eating the real food, your hunger is going to be satisfied, not by seeing the painting or video of the sumptuous meals or photographs of the meals. The entire external world and the pleasure in the external world is just like the painting or photograph of water or food for a hungry and thirsty person. The desire for bliss is real. The desire for bliss is authentic. You are born out of bliss. You are existing in the bliss. And you are constantly moving towards bliss. This is one of the most fundamental tenets of Advaita Vedanta. In Panchadasi, he explained so beautifully. Understand it carefully. Not a single moment, not for a single moment of your life, you are doing anything mentally, verbally, or physically that is not a search for bliss, not a search for joy. Every moment, consciously or unconsciously, is a search for joy and bliss and love. From a blade of grass to Brahma, to the highest of the gods and goddesses, everyone is in search of bliss, and rightly so. But due to ignorance of the availability of that bliss, You are ever hungry, you are ever thirsty, you are running around like a ghost. The need for, the desire for bliss and beauty, listen carefully. It's not sin. Vedanta is the most sublime, noble, and rational philosophy. Your desire for love, bliss, and beauty is real because you have arisen, you have born out of love, bliss, and beauty. You are existing in and you are living for that love, bliss, and beauty, and you will finally get absorbed in and for love, bliss, and beauty. I'm using these three words, love, bliss, and beauty, but in Vedanta there is only one word for this, Ananda, Anandamaya. In 1000 names of Vishnu, one of his names is Mahabhoga. That is the Mahabhoga. The Jivanmukta, as I am explaining in RIbhu Gita, that is the state of the Brahman. He is a Mahabhoga. Vishnu is a Mahabhogi. A true sannyasi, a Brahmanistha, a Paramahansa sannyasi is a Mahabhogi. That's why every time I declare that I have renounced nothing, I need to renounce nothing. I am not an ordinary bhogi. I am a Mahabhogi. That Mahabhog is the Bhog of Brahmananda. That Mahabhog is the Bhog of Atmananda, Divyananda, Akshayananda. That is ever present within you. Unless and until you get hold of that, unless and until you realize your true self, the light of pure consciousness, which inherently is infinite bliss, unconditioned love, eternal beauty, you yourself, outside you, there is only images of the beauty, there are only reflections of love, there are only shadows of bliss, but the real bliss, beauty, and love is ever present in infinite quantity within yourself. Identify, know that self, the Atman, ever present within you. The light of consciousness alone exists. The rest of the body, the world, are all dreamlike, dream words, illusory ones. They alone are the problems. They alone are the barriers. Therefore, I'll return back to RIbhu Gita. This point was very important for you to understand. For me, it became crystal clear when I used to do profound nitidhyasana meditation that I don't have to renounce anything, but I have to be wise. I have to have my eyes open. I need not go for the false. I need not go for that which never exists. Am I a stupid person that I am running after the beloved who never exists? Am I stupid or wise if I am running after somewhere or something or someone who is just a shadow of a lover or beloved? And at the same time, I come to know that there is a lover, there is a beloved, there is a reservoir of eternal bliss, and there is an embodiment of eternal beauty. That is the self within. That is realized once you go in Vikalpa Samadhi, when the self, the ego-based mind and mental modifications are absorbed in the self. That is the state of Samadhi, when consciousness is conscious of consciousness alone. Then you realize the bliss of Brahmananda, the bliss of Atmananda, that is Akshayananda, infinite, inexhaustible love, bliss and beauty and joy. Then no one has to tell you, no one has to teach you and preach you for not to enjoy the bliss. Because that bliss is inexhaustible, unconditioned, unhindered, unfettered. And the Jivanmukta is enjoying that bliss. The bliss of Brahman, the bliss of Atman. That is why he is not concerned, he is not aware about the body, the senses, the world, the relatives, nothing at all. He is aware about only and only the formless, nameless, attributeless, pure consciousness, the Atman, the Brahman, which is ever present within you, me, and everyone, that is one knower and seer of all. Back to Ribhu Gita again. I'll take 5-7 minutes to conclude the characteristics of a Jivanmukta as being explained by Ribhu. There is no longing for me, no covetousness for me, no indirect or metaphorical meaning for me, no fame for me, and no philosophy for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no mistaken notion for me, no knowledge for me, nothing to be kept secret for me, no lineage for me, nothing at all for me. Contemplating thus, one is called a Jivanmukta. You see, I'm delighted to see the next sentence, I was not aware, is saying exactly the same as I was explaining. I told you that I never ever feel like saying that I am trying to renounce anything or I have to renounce anything as a sannyasi. Ordinarily, a sannyasi is supposed to renounce, be a tyagi. Ribhu is saying that truth. Now he is saying, there is nothing I have to relinquish, nothing I have to grasp. I have neither anything to renounce or anything to grasp. Because I am all in all, I am all of all, I am all by all myself. Therefore, in the light of this knowledge of the Brahman, I have no desire to relinquish anything, I have no desire to grasp anything, there is no need to renounce anything, because I alone manifest in the entire bodies of the phenomenal universe. I alone shine forth in every single living, non-living being in the phenomenal universe, from Brahma, the creator, to the smallest blade of grass or a single cell amoeba. I alone am manifesting, pervading and permeating everything and everyone. Therefore, there is nothing I have to relinquish, nothing I have to grasp, there is nothing I have to laugh at for me, there is no dissolution, nor is there any God for me. One who abides in himself thus is called a Jivanmukta. The Jivanmukta is the state of the highest and higher than the highest. He is Brahman. Therefore, which God? Which superior authority? No, he is the highest authority. He is the supreme power. Therefore, for him there is no God, there is no higher authority, there is no superior authority. This truth is so beautifully and powerfully explained in Vivek Chudamani by Jagadguru Adi Shankara, when the disciple, the Vivek Chudamani is quintessence of entire Advaita Vedanta. When the disciple, he instructs, the Guru instructs, becomes self-realized, then he declares the same thing, that there is no higher authority, there is no superior God than me, I am God of the gods. Let me recite for you the beautiful sentence which I recite every day. And that a Jivanmukta is ever absorbed in that truth. What I am going to recite, the Sanskrit sloka, that is the supreme state. Every moment, every single cell of that Jivanmukta, the self-realized one, is soaked in that supreme truth. Narayanoham Narakantakoham Purantakoham Purushohamishaha Khandabodho ham shesh sakshi Nireshwaro ham niraham cha nirmamaha Nirishwaroham. I have no God, there is no God superior or higher to me. Narayadoham, I am Narayana. Narayanoham, Narkantakoham, the one who killed the Narkasur, that Krishna, the Narayan, I am. Narayanoham, Narkantakoham, Purantakoham, Purushoham Ishaha, the one who killed the Purkashur, that Lord I am. I am of the nature of indivisible pure consciousness. I am the supreme power. There is no God for me. There is no God of mine. I am the God of the gods. I am the Lord of the lords. I am governor of the governors. I am emperor of the emperors. I am all in all, myself. That self I am. Aham Brahmasmi. Sohamasmi. Contemplate and meditate upon this revolutionizing mantras. Right now you can usher into that state. Aham Brahmasmi. Muster the courage and realize that supreme truth and declare it. Sohamasmi. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. So the same is being declared by the says Ribhu as a characteristics of the Jivanmukta. For him there is no God. There is nothing superior and higher for him to know or believe or to worry about or fear from. He is the supreme power of the universe and beyond the universe. There is no bhav for me, no fatigue for me, no sorrow for me, and no happiness for me. Surely there is nothing for me. Such a one is called a Jivanmukta. There is neither knower nor knowledge nor anything to be known for me. There is nothing of mind for me. There is nothing at all. Such a sage is called a Jivanmukta. For me, there is no such thing as to you or to me, or from you or from me. There is no Guru for me, not for me. Such a one is called a Jivanmukta. There is no lassitude for me. There is no delirium for me. There is no fatigue for me. There is nothing good for me either. One who is established in not for me is called a Jivanmukta. A Jivanmukta doesn't need anything. He is everything because he is everything. He knows that he is everything, so he doesn't have to be conscious of anything else. He is not. He has transcended the state of duality of the phenomenal universe. That is why there is nothing and nothing and nothing. This Sacchidananda has the greatest grace of the Lord, that he has got a Brahmanist, a Saratri, a self-realized master. The words, the power that you might see ringing behind the words of Sacchidananda are the grace of the true self-realized master. I have seen for the last 4 years that this is a reality. In my revered Gurudev, Param Pujya, Dandi Swami Hansanand Saraswati Ji Maharaj, who is a very dear disciple of Dharma Samrat Karpatri Ji Maharaj. Now he is 112 years old, But even in that state, now he is lying on the bed, but whenever we go, the words are nectarine. He is Brahmanist. He is not prepared to give even a single second. He is not conscious about the body. Absolutely. Then and then I became convinced. Before that, I was not hopeful of the fact that the Sthiti Pragya's Lakshana in Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads about Jivanmukta, there might be possibilities in ancient times, someone being, some great sage being a Brahmanist, a Atmanist. But I have been so fortunate with Lord's grace that I have experienced the self-realized master's presence at least for last 4-5 years, and then just not by the words, by the very presence of my Gurudev, I became convinced that this state is possible even now, and that has helped me a lot. It revolutionized my journey. Without even uttering a word, the Gurudev, the silence of my Gurudev gave all the nectarine reservoir of bliss and of Brahmananda. Don't think that the characteristics of Jivanmukta being explained by RIbhu Gita is a reality of some ancient time, of some imaginary something which have of Satyuga. No, right now, even right now, right here, understand this philosophy, Vedanta philosophy, a rational, logical philosophy, implement it, execute it, behave as per the simple fundamental tenets of Vedanta. You enjoy the nectarine bliss of Brahmananda and Atmananda right now. The only condition is that you must be honest to yourself. You must be a sincere seeker. You must be hankering after the realization of your ultimate glory. If that is there, everything else is possible for you. There is no lineage for me. There is no aphorism for me. There is no status for me. There is no compassion for me. There is nothing at all for me. One who contemplates thus is called a Jivanmukta. There is no self for me, no non-self for me either. There is no heaven for me. There is no fruit for me. There is nothing to be condemned by me. Such a one is called a Jivanmukta. There is nothing to be condemned or criticized. What does it mean? This was a direct instruction that my Gurudev showered on me. I was talking some worldly thing and I was criticizing something, and he just one sentence he uttered, and that became the greatest teaching of my life. He said that this entire phenomenal universe is a mirage, a dream world. It's dosha yukta. In Hindi say it's dosha yukta. Sampurna srishti hi doshmay hai. Therefore, don't try to explain it by condemning or criticizing it. See the self within that is tentless, beyond all dosha, and self alone is there everywhere in the world. Then you will be beyond any condemnation of anything, howsoever ignoble, horrible, criminal or sinful a person would be, because you yourself are manifesting, pervading everywhere. One self, one self, I the self of all manifest world. That is the ultimate glory. That is the self-realization. If I myself is present and permeating and pervading everyone, everything, how can I condemn or criticize anything? Is it possible? It is only because of my ignorance about my true nature, being body-bound, mind-bound, thought-bound, that I think the others are others separate from me. That's why I condemn, criticize others. I hate others. There is no other. There is nothing else to criticize. There is nobody to hate for. There is no one to love for. I myself appear in the entire infinite phenomenal world. I, the self, not the body. Don't misconceive it. Not this body known as Swami Sacchidananda, the self present within you, and the same self is present within you, each one of you. That self is one indivisible, non-dual reality. That is what Vedanta is called Advaita. There is no distinction of subject and object. The entire objective phenomenal universe is hidden within yourself, as in the case of a dream. When you are sitting, sleeping in your room, you see you are in the bed, but you see a dream, a beautiful ocean, sea beach, mighty mountains you are seeing, elephants you are seeing, lions you are seeing, big metros like Delhi, Mumbai you are seeing your dream. Where is that? It's all projection of the subject, that is the mind. Even so, you, the self of pure consciousness nature, are only reality of this entire existence. You alone appear as all the objective world and the objects and persons of the objective world and experiences thereof. You alone exist. Nothing else exists. That is why a Jivanmukta is not bothered about anything else. He is reveling in the bliss of the self because he knows that the self alone exists and the self is beyond all disease and death. The pandemic of corona or any kind of pandemic or disease or death can't touch it. It is death of the death. All death, all disease, all birth, all infection, all affliction is born out of ignorance, ignorance of a true nature. The body consciousness, when you feel that the body is your reality, the body is your real identity. So that is what the entire humanity, more than 4 billion human beings today are under strict lockdown. Like today I saw more than 1,30,000 people have died due to corona. Everywhere in India, it's entire lockdown. It's okay, but the kind of fear you are suffering, the entire humanity has got spooked by an invisible virus. It's because of ignorance of your true nature. You are not susceptible to any disease or death. Realize your true nature. Even if there is no pandemic, even there is no corona, how many thousands of years you are going to survive? Think about this truth. Use this corona pandemic as a great divine boon and opportunity to realize your true self. You are 60 years, 70, 80 years old and still people are so frightened. If you remain healthy, how many thousands of years you are going to live? Have you ever asked this question? You have to die. The body has to die. The body was born and body has to die. But realize that which is unborn and cannot die, which is beyond disease, death, infection and affliction, that is the Atman. And the Jivanmukta, as being explained in RIbhu Gita, knows the self, it abides in the self. Therefore, he is not concerned about anything else. There is no death for him. There is no sorrow for him. There is no thing to be worried about. He is free, utterly free, careless, absolutely free, even if he is abiding and still living in a human body, Jivanmukta. There is no practice for me, there is no learning for me, there is no peace for me, no self-restraint for me, and no body for me. Such a sage is called Jivanmukta. There is no distress for me, no doubt for me, no sleep for me, no mind for me, and no uncertainty for me. One who has this conviction is called a Jivanmukta. No old age exists in me. Listen and contemplate and meditate on this. No old age exists in me. The youth, the adulthood, and old age all are the attributes of the body. You are not the body. Therefore, there is no old age or adulthood or youth for you. Therefore, there is no death for you either. There is no disease for you either. You are Atman, Tattvam Asi, Tattvam Asi. Be convinced, and nothing but Shravan, Manan, Nidhi Dhyasan of Vedantic Mahavakyas leads you to that supreme glory. You need to do with full devotion and utmost sincerity, with full honesty. Then you will find the difference. It can happen even in few weeks. Few weeks are more than enough for self-realization. Remembering that the world is not for me, nor its experiences, nothing of all this, such a one who has found that silence also is not for me, is called a Jivanmukta. I am indeed Brahman, I am indeed Brahman, I am indeed Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi, Sohamasmi. It is certain I am consciousness, I am consciousness. One who is thus is called a Jivanmukta. Pragyanam Brahma, Ayamatma Brahma. I am Brahman, I am consciousness, I am the highest, there is no doubt, I am myself, the self-luminous. One who is thus is called a Jivanmukta. One who sees only himself in himself, who abides only in himself, and who exists only in his own self is called a Jivanmukta. Again, he is trying to suggest, and that is the state of samadhi, when consciousness is conscious of consciousness alone. That is called the highest state, the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the state of Jivanmukta. In these lines, Ribhu is trying to suggest the same thing. That is the state of samadhi, when the consciousness, that is the self, when the self is aware of self alone, that is the state of a Jivanmukta. That is the state of a liberated one while still living in the body. That is the state of a Brahmagyani. That is the state of a Atmagyani. One who enjoys himself in the bliss of his own self, who resides in the domain of his own self, and who sees himself in the domain of his own self is called a Jivanmukta. I am myself the one pointed, I am myself the Lord of myself, I perceive myself as of the nature of myself. One who is thus is called a Jivanmukta. The explanation of the Jivanmukta is difficult to come by in all the Vedas. Whoever hears this even once, himself becomes Brahman, because Brahmavid Brahmai Bhavati, Brahmavid Brahmai Bhavati. The knower of the Brahman verily becomes Brahman himself. Those who by the ideas of differentiation engendered by the arguments and injunctions of the Vedas emaciate themselves with their minds, set on acquiring punya and inflict untold hardship on their bodies, will at no time attain the happiness that flows from your feet, O Lord. O Lord, the Lord within, not external reality. The Supreme Lord, the Paramatman, the Brahman, when he is addressing, the Supreme Lord of the nature of pure consciousness is ever present within you. He alone is illumining and revealing every single experience of your life. Every single cell in your body is being illumined by the Supreme Lord, the Shiva, the Paramatman, the Brahman, that is Narayana. When he is saying at the feet, the glory of the feet of the Lord, it's your own feet. who can cross this ocean of samsara, of the nature of successive waves of birth and death. One who is imbued with the meditation on Shiva, well instructed in the modes of worship of Ishvara, can alone make the crossing of the boat of the differenceless knowledge, that is knowledge of the self, that is knowledge of the Brahman, that is called Brahma Jnana, that is called Atma Jnana, that is the state of the Atmanistha, Brahmanistha, that is the state of a Jivanmukta, and that is the supreme glory and supreme objective of life. Let me hope and pray that all of us become a knower of that supreme self and finally abide in that supreme self and enjoy the unbound, infinite, unconditioned love, bliss and beauty. That is our right, birthright. We are the inheritors and of the nectarine bliss, and we have in our bosom that infinite ocean of bliss that is in the Shiva, Shiva within. I am Shiva, you are Shiva. Realize and join me for a few minutes because this chapter is concluded. The next chapter tomorrow or the day after in RIbhu Gita would be on Videha Mukta, liberation out of the body. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham